welcome to the second episode of VET Talks. We are here today with Brikena Xhomaqi from the LLP. She's the director of the Lifelong Learning Platform, and today we're going to a little bit discuss and go through her experience and what are the perspectives for vocational education and training. So welcome, Brikena.
Well, thank you very much, and happy to be with you today.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. How are you?
Feeling busy. It's the end of the year, so we are coming to the end of a lot of initiatives and activities. So yes, it's a busy period, but we're looking forward to the holidays as well. So a good period.
I'm sure. Many things ahead. Also for 2024, perhaps.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's going to be a busy year. We are going to continue with the lifelong learning platform, of course, activities, but also the European Year of Skills that is continuing until May. So there are plenty of events and activities still to happen.
We will all be busy, yes.
Yes, absolutely.
And you become the director of the LLP, but you have a long experience. How all of this, came into being, and then now you're, promoting and working in the field of education and learning for all, also for VET.
Yeah, I actually started with student organizations when I was a student myself. I was studying in Italy and political science, and I joined very quickly the student union. At the time, got elected in the faculty at the student council, and then it started like this. And then I continued when I moved to France, because I continued my master's in Nice, in the south of France, in management and innovative project management, actually at the Polytechnic School of Nice. And there as well, I joined the student union, the local union. And then once there was this call from the National Student Union, they needed an English speaker to go for a European student convention. And as I was part of the French Student Union, I said, yeah, I can speak English, I can speak on behalf of the French students. So this is how I ended up for the first time at European level in this student union, where I ended up in this ministerial conference of the Bologna process. So at the time, universities, ministers gathering in Vienna, and then that's basically where I met a lot of European student representatives from different countries, and then I started to be interested by the European education and training area in general. And then I worked with the Erasmus Student Network. So the first time actually as a student, as from the student union, and then somehow I got headhunted, if I can say so, by the Erasmus Student Network, which has its headquarters here in Brussels as well. And this is how I ended up in Brussels. So I worked with them, and then LLP. So it was a long journey. I tried to be very short, but it's been now 7 years in Lifelong Learning Platform.
Incredible. And how's it going?
It's going well. I like it. I really like education and training. I've always been a student representative, even in school. So
Your connection with education.
Voila. So I always like to represent and voice the concerns of those that need a better education. So definitely, I still like it, and I continue to believe in that. Also from a lifelong learning perspective, which before I didn't have, because before I was looking in silos, university level, so school level, but I never thought of this. Exactly. So I never thought of this lifelong learning wide perspective, that education is everywhere. So
at all times.
Yeah.
Yes, in fact, this is very interesting because you come from a background of political science, then which I also share by chance, and then the projects. But then there was always like a red lining of education there.
Yes.
And how do you see this now from your perspective? So after 7 years of experience in the LLP, how all these perspectives are coming together? You said one word just now, like silos. So are these coming down a little bit, or do you feel like that we still have work to do there?
I think, the purpose of Lifelong Learning Platform when it was founded, it was actually to break the silos. So it was back 17, 18 years ago, where some of the major European networks of education, so there was the Adult Education Network and then the VET, EVBB among those, and EFTA, and then the youth organizations, school associations. So there were a number of these organizations that they just met occasionally together. And they said, we cannot work on silos. We cannot work on certain issues that are transversal to all of us. For instance, I don't know, when we speak of key competences, this is not an issue of only schools, of only VET, or only universities or adult education, so it's everyone. And so they had this great idea, which I considered it really a very good idea that they had to come together and to found the Lifelong Learning Platform. And since then, through the Lifelong Learning Platform, we are trying to break those silos. So also when we liaise with European institutions, we try to bring the different units taking care of different education sectors together. We try to really push the commissioners to work together, to have this holistic vision and to break the silos as much as we can, also within the Erasmus program and other European programs, to have cross-sectoral cooperation as a prerequisite for certain calls, for example. And it's happening. It's yet not perfect, but it's happening.
The goal is we put them in the same room.
Yes, and then let's see what happens.
Exactly, and they have to learn to the same language at some point.
Yeah, that's the difficult part.
Yeah. So you've been working a lot, as you said, as student representative, working representing students, and how you've seen, for example, and I'm sure, students being empowered by the power of their own education, by the power of knowledge. Do you think that the same can happen with VET students?
Yeah, and it should happen, but for it to happen, one of the ideas that we also try to promote is the student-centered approach, putting the learner at the center of the education. It means that also the teacher plays a different role. It's not anymore just the one that has all the knowledge and is transferring it to the learner, but it's actually the one that is taking the best out of the classroom and the knowledge that already the learners have, and tailor it to their needs and facilitate new knowledge, so creation of new knowledge. So if with this idea we empower the learners, and of course on top of that, if the governance of the VET or any institution of education, it's a democratic governance where you allow the students to also have their representative bodies where they can speak up for their rights, then we empower those students to really be
a sense of belonging, for example.
Absolutely.
To that community of students representing different instances.
They feel ownership of what they are doing, what they are learning, and they are part of the institution, not just like going there and taking some knowledge and getting away. So I think that's a way that VET schools should also change.
A direction for us. Yeah, I agree. It's very interesting, and from what I see is VET as a way also to empower citizens, for example, in this case.
Absolutely.
So we are all students at some point in our lives. We continue to be students in respect of the lifelong. But how this education is bringing us, skills, as you said, key competencies to be active citizens. Also in a perspective of, for example, next year, European elections, 2024. But I'm very interested in knowing more about, this sense of community. So now in Europe, I know that it's been for ages now, it's a very, very diversified communities. So we have, especially also in the field of workers, and now we have line of workers that are completely internationalized. How do you see vocational education as a space where all these components are coming together? So different backgrounds, different, let's say, aspirations. So for also migrants, for example. So can it be really a space for intercultural communication?
It can, and we are promoting the idea of the community lifelong learning centers, for example. The idea behind is that we actually get closer to the community needs and we open the door of the schools to the community. And that means working with unusual stakeholders, non-profit organizations, community actors, municipalities, and different public or non-profit organizations that would actually together tailor the learning journey of the individual in the vet schools, for instance, and also be part of the mission, be part of the curricula design, and that would best fit to the needs also of the community. So this co-creation idea in the community is an idea that the vet schools can also embrace in order to be these players that you said that would have not only a purely labor market mission, but also a purpose for a societal purpose where they actually would fulfill some more democratic needs of the society or community where they are based. This happens a lot in some of the member states. We have Ireland pioneering in these community learning centers specifically for marginalized groups, because we need to be aware that a lot of learners, especially for marginalized communities or with a certain limited or let's say disadvantaged socioeconomic background, they are afraid of the formal education system, of those systems that are far away from their communities. So we need to go closer to where they are, get closer to them by creating them this safe space where they can express themselves. So I think, yeah, there is a possibility for vets to do so, but it has to be in cooperation with those community actors, because you can't just say, I'm opening the door, welcome,
yes,
and I fix the problem. No, it's adapting and speaking to the spokesperson of those individuals. So who is the organization?
Yes.
Who is the organization representing the let's say the minorities in that community, or who is working with I don't know, women, or who is working with certain other communities. So yeah, that's I think the way.
There is a great deal of listening in these cases. So you know, reaching out, but not only being able to speak the same language as we were saying before for different stakeholders in education and vet, but in this case it's really about listening to their own also requests, to their own aspirations.
Yeah, I think listening, that's for sure, reaching out, it's a major effort, because if we see, for instance, in adult education, at European level, there is a major issue of outreach, that we are not able to reach out to the individuals that are most in need, because of the reasons that I mentioned, that we are not close enough to them and we are not speaking their language. So using their channels would be actually useful.
No, we were also talking a little bit about before, you know, we mentioned the European Year of Skills. This initiative that has been running, it's going to go run until the end of May in 2024. I'm curious because this was an occasion for all of us to imagine skills from a perspective of now, from a perspective of the future. So where are we going ahead? You know, I want to think with you a little bit to reflect together. You know, what's the road ahead a little bit for VET? What are the main innovations that you see that, for example, in the next few years, we will all, you know, be more comfortable to see or more used to see in vocational education?
Well, I think the European Year of Skills, when initially it was launched and thought, was actually to boost vocational education and training as one learning pathway that is key to this twin transition or double transition, some prefer to say, because they are not really the same. So when we say twin, so I think the biggest challenge for the vet sector, it will be actually to cater the needs for a greener Europe, a greener society, a more sustainable society, and sustainable jobs, but also sustainable skills, if we can use the terminology, and then digital. So the other of course, important transition that VET has to also cater to. So I think this will be the biggest challenges for the sector, is to adapt the curricula, to adapt the learning offer, the training provision, not only to younger people but also to adults, because the expectation is that we have a major need of adults reskilling and upskilling, and they cannot just go back to a university degree. They might need to go back to vocational training, and if so, then the vet sector needs to be prepared for that adults population, which will be a completely different learner with different needs, because they are not used to certain pedagogy. You have to adapt completely the pedagogy to adults, this I think would be the major challenges for them. And I think the European Year of Skills will probably serve as a booster for the European member states to kind of reform their education, in particular vocational education and training systems, in a way that they would actually adapt to this twin. So I think that purpose will probably be matched, will be achieved, because I think from a communication point of view, we already see that the member states are taking up on the skills. The only issue that I might see there is that we might have a side effects of it, that instead of looking at the broader needs for skills, we would look at labor market technical skills, so quick fixes, short-term solutions, rather than long-term solutions where we actually teach our citizens competences that are useful for life and that will help them adapt to any transition. So, I mean, the World Economic Forum has been saying now since many years, McKinsey research as well, on social emotional competences, on transversal competences that are key for individuals to adapt to any transition. So we need them more than ever. And then, of course, we can fix the green and the digital. But
so perhaps the real twin transition will be, from one side, the technical competences, so to advance a society that is ever more technological, but at the other, transition together is the one that follows the key competences.
Absolutely,
so the ones that actually empower the individual to make the best out of those technical competences.
Yes, absolutely.
For example, last week, just as a news that was announced by the Commission, we have a new mobility package, promoting certain skills in relation to the mobility of learners, of all learners.
Yes.
So not only youth, but actually this is a great assist that they're giving, because it actually addresses everyone. No, my question is we go towards new strategies. So this is one thing. It's very much welcomed by the learning community, I'm sure. But do you see that, for example, there are other areas where, for example, we could a little bit check where we stand and promote, let's say, a strategic view to go forward?
Well, the package that was launched, Europe, we move Europe. It's actually what we have been asking for many years, since the current program Erasmus Plus was launched. We asked specifically for the VET sector a specific target for mobility. So now we have it. The problem is how to reach it.
Which is now 15%, if I'm correct.
Yes, which is quite ambitious, given the challenges that the VET sector has to run mobilities. So certainly for me, this was an area where it needed to have a strong strategy behind and the political will to boost the sector, because the attractiveness of VET depends also on its internationalization. Yeah. So I think it was very important to further boost cooperation and internationalization in the VET sector, like it has been in the higher education for many, many years, and it has had its actually fruitful results. So I think, that's definitely a strategy that was needed at this moment.
Called for.
Yeah, for action for the sector. But I think still the problem that remains is that the means and the resources, so the funding for this specific sector are not following. So adding up new strategies, new targets and new objectives to achieve without meaningful means, resources and funding to it, it's going to be a bit hard to...
I see the challenge, yes.
Yes.
Access to funding. We mentioned the Erasmus Plus program as a key enabler, but how many of the actors that are actually able to tap into it, to tap into those resources? Maybe this is another
Not to mention that recently the Spanish presidency concluded the presidency with a proposal for cutting the funds for the next generation of the multi-financial framework. And in the member states, with the reports we have, there are less and less funding for education. So I don't know how do we want to what message, to guarantee that we are achieving those goals without actual funding for it. So yeah.
Interesting. We're going to have to look more into that and bring it outside. Actually, on this topic, because you also mentioned, for example, the attractiveness of VET, of reaching out, of us as we are professionals in this field, but reaching out to grassroots, to really to the ground, to where also we came as representative of students and so on. So, do you think that there's still work to be done for vocational to be not only properly attractive but also properly communicated? So for actors to know what we're doing and for actors to be interested in saying, I could do that.
Well, I think that if there is a political will to make VET attractive and not like a second choice education, I think with a little bit of communication capacity as well for the institutions, we can inform better about this learning journey or pathways as being another alternative, an attractive alternative, especially in the current context. So if we use also a bit of the current context with the green and the digital developments, we could bring a new boost to also make VET more attractive. But yeah, there is a major factor of communication that needs to be improved. For instance, if we compare VET to higher education are much better at attracting students. They have a recruitment process which is much more advanced. This is not the case for VET. Usually VET waits for students to come to them rather than goes and look for them. So I think this would have to change as well.
Now, let's say a more institutionalized approach.
Yeah.
So let's say that VET not only acting as a school, but as a, let's say, the point of view of human resources outreach, from the communication, from the placement and the employment, all these services that, for example, higher education is providing, but also now they could be applied in VET, and this could be a more centralized, let's say, effort, a stronger effort to reach out to communities.
Yeah, and I think VET can also work better with employment offices, can work also better with universities, because sometimes universities can also facilitate access to VET, as some students would probably go through the career office of the university and would figure out at some point that they probably are better for a vocational pathway than a university path. So I think, there are ways for different stakeholders to work together. We have, for instance, in the lifelong learning platform, one of the members, Cité des Métiers, which is about this multi-partnership approach where they bring all the different education and training providers, but also employment and social services offices together to find a solution and guide people. So guidance as well is very important, and guidance and counseling should start very early, because when we take the decisions what we will do later in life, it's much more at the school level where we need to be guided for that. So I think partnerships.
This is also an interesting point, and this will also be my last one. VET can be the community center. So let's say, in these stakeholders, let's say, sea of many actors, as we were mentioning, so unions, employment agencies, or public policy makers as well. Is there a space for maneuvering for VET to actually govern and to take the initiative? So proactively go out, so not waiting for not only students, but for these stakeholders to come to the schools, but actually for the school to go out and reach out and saying we want to do all these things and we can do them together if we follow, for example, these steps. So a way for that to be more proactive in this, let's say, multi-stakeholder governance process.
Well, Historically, VET are much more open than any other education. If we think of schools or universities, they are a lot close to the community compared to VET, because VET by default, being closer to the economy and to certain professions, they were more open to partnerships. So historically, VET has always been opened, but has it had the resources to do it in a systematic and a structured way and a more strategic way? This I'm not sure. So I think that it's also about investing in VET in a way that they can take the best out of those partnerships and those cooperations. So in my opinion, the governance of VET very much depends on the funding we put and the investment that the government puts into the VET systems and to allow them to do their work better. So I don't see them being closed, but rather them not having the means to open up, because for teachers or staff in VET schools to go and look for
partnerships,
exactly, it's time and money. So if they don't have it, they won't do it. So I think it's very important for me to look more at what we need, how do we need to support vets to enable them to do what they already do better, rather than looking at pointing fingers at you are not doing exactly. So this would be my personal take.
I see. Any other message you want to launch for 2024? Any best wishes?
Well, my best wish will be for the VET sector to work more with the other sectors. So looking at how to cooperate with universities, with schools, with adult education. So continue that and further cooperate with, because they need the support of others to be an attractive learning path.
We need to work together.
Yes.
Brikena Xhomaqi, thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you very much.